The Netherlands. A country born in the ashes of the 80 Years' War, surrounded by water and powerful neighbors. The Dutch Golden Age lasted from 1575 up until 1675, with many new ideas about society being brought to the light along with countless of paintings and inventions which would help define the Netherlands and aid sciences around the world. However, the Dutch Golden Age was not as fancy as it seemed, with many societal beliefs being upheld through harsh punishment. However, as times were changing just like the tide, the Dutch wanted to abandon their old medieval and ruthless punishments and become a bit more progressive. How did they want to become more progressive, you ask? Well, Sebastian Egbertsson suggested in 1589 that there should be new ways in treating criminals, believing himself in clinical therapy and suggesting the establishment of a correctional facility in Amsterdam. This would allow tourists to see the progressive nature of the Dutch and help enforce the notion that the Netherlands could maintain an orderly society and was worthy of international investors. However, at first there was little traction with this idea, until Jan Spiegel, the son of a wealthy businessman, started to fund the project, leading to the creation of the Terughuis in Amsterdam. At the time, the provincial government of Amsterdam was starting to get overrun with immigrants coming from the farmlands, which were perceived as thieves and scoundrels, which would threaten urban life. This, along with Jan Spiegel's offer to fund a correctional facility, led to its establishment. Days were fine, with many of Egbertsson's correctional ideas being implemented, with skills being taught to convicts and felons, and then being released into society as skilled workers. However, just 2 years after its establishment in 1595, conditions started to deteriorate, with countless convicts being held in the center, and quote-unquote slight adjustments being made to the correctional facilities policies to help the convicts obey Dutch rule and belief. This is where we find ourselves in the shoes of a young convict around the age of 17. In 1597, named Daniel van Grofhout, believed to be a bread thief, he was sent to the correctional facility. And as he arrives, he sees it. A building large enough at the time to house countless of souls, and at the entrance an engraving of a woman on a chariot being pulled by lions. Daniel van Grofhout turned bleak, and claim your innocence, but the guards won't budge. You're escorted into a dark and damp room in the darkness, where your behavior is monitored. In the hallway, you hear the guards mock the correctional abilities of the facility, while you hear inmates suffering and grunting as they return from their duties. Hours pass. You try to sleep, but you can't, as there is water dripping into your cell. And then a drum goes off. Your cell is opened, and you've been accepted into the facility. You're rushed upstairs into the sunlight, blinded, and then it hits you. Correction is not taught. It's beaten into you here. Egbertsson once preached, "Don't hold," where skills are taught and convicts get to improve themselves. Instead, the only skill taught is how to use a saw. You've been assigned to one of the countless of rooms and are ordered to use a saw to cut Brazil wood. And as days turn into months of completing this routine, you're stuck wondering what you're learning. You're unaware, but you have an income that's being used to pay your food, and some cash is being docked for your eventual release back into society once you've learned your lesson. Hopeless, and you feel stuck, so you decide not to work. After all, what's the point? An instructor yells at you to work, but you refuse. You're beaten and bruised, and then you hear it. The water cell. The facility is open to onlookers, entertained by the suffering of you and fellow inmates, and it forces shame upon you and calls for improvement on your re-entry to society. You remember where you're slumbering towards. The water cell. You get put into a cell and the drains open. Water starts to rise. Well, there's one manual pump for you to crank. Within 15 minutes, the water is at neck level. Your unwillingness to work earlier disappears as you start to work for your life, pumping water out while freezing. And as you finally manage to pump all the water out, ironically, a guard tells you, "Looks like you've been cured from your tiredness and laziness. Now do your job." Your ration of brown bread with beans and small cutlet of fish. You're lectured on religion and how it is the foundation for your life once you leave the walls, but all you can think about is death, how you were forced to fight the water for your life. The idea of water versus man perpetuates much of Dutch belief, with it leading to many policies which would lead to the freedom from the grips of feudalism and wash a clean slate on which the Netherlands could be built. Upon your release, you are astonished by your country. You feel ashamed and proud. Ashamed for the torture you lived through, but proud for what you withstood along with all the other Dutch people living with the fear of water at its doorstep. You, where the correctional facility has worked. However, your reputation remains tarnished, and your criminal past will dictate your future. For every country, the way people are punished by their governments play an important role in how they view society. And in the Dutch Golden Age, it was no different, with such facilities paving the way for a unified mentality of Dutch correctness and beliefs. Comment and tell me what I should film next. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Peace out.